I learned something important about boundaries during my last relationship. They're only as good as both people's willingness to respect them. And when someone starts treating your boundaries like suggestions instead of agreements, they're showing you exactly how much they value the relationship itself. Sarah and I had been together for just over 3 years when everything started to unravel. We'd met through mutual friends at a trivia night, hit it off over our shared love of terrible sci-fi movies, and fell into something that felt comfortable and real. For the first 2 years, things were genuinely good. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our Sunday morning ritual of making elaborate breakfasts while listening to podcasts neither of us actually paid attention to. But somewhere around the start of year 3, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic at first, just small things that accumulated like dust. Sarah started staying late at work more often, which I understood because she was going for a promotion. I picked up extra hours at the gym and started going to more of my friends' game nights to fill the time. We went from cooking together most nights to eating separately, her with her laptop at the dining table, me on the couch with whatever I'd thrown together. Our conversations became transactional. Did you pay the electric bill? Can you pick up milk? What time will you be home? The argument started small too. She'd make plans without checking with me first, then get defensive when I pointed out we'd already committed to something else. I'd forget to text her back for a few hours and she'd accuse me of not prioritizing her. We were both right and both wrong, caught in this loop of minor resentments that we never quite addressed head-on. One night in late September, after a particularly tense dinner where we'd barely spoken, Sarah asked if we could talk about the future. I remember feeling this knot in my stomach because I knew it was either going to be really good or really bad, no middle ground. We sat on opposite ends of our couch, and she tucked her legs underneath her the way she always did when she was nervous. "I've been thinking a lot about us," she started, not making eye contact. "About where we're headed?" "Okay," I said carefully. "And I feel like we're settling into this pattern, you know? Like we're just going through the motions. And I'm scared that if we keep going like this, we're going to wake up in 10 years and realize we missed out on, I don't know, experiences. Growth." I felt defensive immediately, but tried to keep my voice level. "What kind of experiences are you talking about?" She took a breath. "I think we should consider opening the relationship." The words hung there between us. I remember staring at a water stain on the ceiling that I'd been meaning to fix for months, trying to process what she'd just said. "You want to see other people?" I said flatly. "Not exactly. I want us to have the freedom to explore connections with other people while still maintaining what we have. There's a whole ethical framework around this. I've been reading about it, and I think it could actually help us appreciate each other more, take the pressure off." I felt like I'd been punched. The pressure of what? Being in a relationship with me? "That's not what I meant," she said quickly. I just, I don't want to look back and feel like I settled without exploring what else is out there. And I think you might feel the same way if you're honest with yourself. We got together pretty young. We talked in circles for hours that night. She had answers for everything. This whole vocabulary around ethical non-monogamy and personal growth that made me feel like I was the backwards one for wanting things to stay as they were. But things weren't staying as they were anyway. They were already breaking down, and maybe this was just the final crack. I didn't want to lose her. That was the bottom line. So even though every instinct told me this was a bad idea, I said I'd think about it. 3 days later, I told her I'd agree to try it, but only with clear, written rules. She seemed almost relieved, like she'd expected more resistance. We spent an entire weekend hashing out the details, sitting at our dining table with a shared Google Doc between us. The final list looked like this. 1. Protection, always, no exceptions. 2. Full transparency within 24 hours of any date or encounter. 3. No coworkers or mutual friends. 4. 2 nights per week are protected couple time, non-negotiable. 5. Either person can veto a specific individual for safety or comfort. 6. No lying by omission. 7. Weekly check-ins, and either person can pause or stop everything immediately. Sarah signed it digitally. I did too. I remember thinking that if we needed a contract to make our relationship work, we were probably already past the point of saving it. But I pushed that thought down. The first month was worse than I'd imagined, but Sarah was genuinely trying to make it work. She went on her first date within a week, some guy she'd matched with on an app. When she came home that night, she found me still awake on the couch pretending to watch TV. She sat down next to me and took my hand. "Hey," she said softly. "I know this is hard. It's hard for me too, in different ways." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "We can stop this anytime you want. You know that, right? You're still the most important person in my life." She squeezed my hand. "I went out tonight, and the whole time I was thinking about you, about us, about how I wanted to come home and tell you about my day, the way we used to." It helped, hearing that. For those first few weeks, Sarah was careful. She'd tell me about her dates with this measured honesty, checking in to make sure I was okay. She kept our Thursday and Saturday nights sacred, planning little activities for us, cooking dinners together, trying to reconnect. When I struggled with jealousy, she'd sit with me through it, reassuring me that this was about exploration, not replacement. I tried the apps too, but my heart wasn't in it. I'd match with someone, start a conversation, then let it fizzle out because the whole thing felt performative and hollow. Sarah noticed and said it was okay, that I could take my time, that this didn't have to be symmetrical. But by the second month, things started shifting. Small things at first. Sarah stopped asking how I was doing with everything quite as often. She'd come home later than she'd said she would, apologize vaguely about losing track of time. She stopped giving me as much detail about her dates, saying it felt weird to share everything. When I reminded her about the transparency rule, she said I was being insecure and that the rule was meant to build trust, not create interrogations. One Thursday evening, she texted me an hour before our protected couple time to say she was going to be late, that she'd run into someone and they were grabbing dinner. I reminded her about Rule 4. She called me rigid. "It's one night," she said when she finally got home at 11. "You're acting like I committed some terrible crime." We agreed on this. You specifically wanted these nights protected. I wanted us to have flexibility, to be adults about this. Then why did we write it down? She didn't have an answer for that. She just went to bed. The real breaking point came a few weeks later. I'd noticed she'd been mentioning Jake from her office more often. Little comments here and there about his sense of humor, about a project they were collaborating on. I didn't think much of it until our friend Marcus posted an Instagram story from a concert downtown. There, in the background, was Sarah. And next to her, clearly together, was a guy I recognized from her office holiday party. Jake. I felt cold all over. I texted her. "Are you at a concert right now?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Yeah, Jake had an extra ticket. It was last minute." "Jake from your office?" "It's not a big deal. We're in different departments." "You broke Rule 3, I said. "Can we talk about this later?" she said, and she sounded strained. "I can barely hear you." "No, you're at a concert with a coworker. That's explicitly against what we agreed." She inhaled slowly, like she was trying to stay calm. He's not really a coworker in my day-to-day. We're in different departments. I barely see him." "That's still a coworker, Sarah. That's what the rule says." "I know what it says," she said, a little defensive. This was last minute. It didn't feel like a big thing." "It is a big thing, because we wrote it down." There was a pause, and then her voice tightened. "You're being really rigid about this." "I'm asking you to respect what we agreed." "I do," she said quickly. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I just can't have this conversation right now, not here. Please, we'll talk when I get home." She hung up. I sat there on our couch, phone in my hand, and something in me just broke. Not dramatically, not with tears or anger. Just a quiet cracking, like ice under weight. When she got home after midnight, I was still up. We fought, really fought, for the first time since we'd started this arrangement. She accused me of trying to control her, of not understanding the whole point of what we were doing. I pointed out that I'd followed every single rule, even when it hurt, even when I felt like I was dying inside on the nights she was out. "You're keeping score," she said. "That's not what this is about." Then what is it about? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you wanted all the freedom and none of the accountability. She slept in the guest room that night. In the morning, she apologized, said she'd gotten carried away, that she'd respect the boundaries better. But something had fundamentally shifted in me. I didn't believe her anymore. That's when I started actually working on myself. I threw myself into the gym, going 5 times a week, pushing myself harder than I ever had. I started showing up to my friends' basketball games every week instead of canceling. I picked up the guitar I hadn't touched in 2 years. I needed to remember who I was outside of this relationship, outside of this anxiety. And I started taking the dating apps seriously, not as a distraction, but as a genuine exploration of what else was out there. That's when I matched with Emily. She was a graphic designer with an infectious laugh and a profile that was actually funny instead of trying too hard. I was honest with her from the first message. Full transparency, I typed. I'm in an open relationship. If that's not something you're interested in, I completely understand. She replied an hour later. I appreciate the honesty. I've done the open thing before. Want to grab coffee and see if we vibe? We met at a cafe near her studio on a Wednesday afternoon. She showed up exactly on time, wearing paint-splattered jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. We talked for 3 hours. She told me about her work designing album covers for indie bands, and I told her about my job in project management. We discovered we'd both been to the same music festival 2 years ago, probably walked past each other without knowing it. That's wild, she said, grinning. We could have met then. Would have saved you some time. I laughed. Or ruined the timing completely. Our second date was at a local arcade bar. She destroyed me at skee-ball and then insisted on using all her tickets to get me a tiny rubber dinosaur from the prize counter. For luck, she said, pressing it into my palm. We played terrible multiplayer games and drank cheap beer, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed that hard. The third date, she invited me to a pottery class her friend was teaching. I was terrible at it, my bowl collapsing into a sad lump, while Emily created this perfect little vase. She found my failure hilarious and charming in equal measure. You have to embrace the mess, she said, her hands covered in clay. That's the whole point. I told Sarah about Emily after each date, following the rules. Sarah's reactions got increasingly clipped. That's nice, she'd say, barely looking up from her phone. Glad you're having fun. By our fourth date, Emily and I were falling into an easy rhythm. She'd text me random thoughts throughout the day, funny observations or photos of weird things she saw. We'd stay up late talking about everything and nothing. She was curious about my life, remembered details from previous conversations, built on them. When I mentioned I was stressed about a project at work, she sent me a playlist she'd made called Focus Mode, with a note. For when your brain won't cooperate. I found myself thinking about her constantly, looking forward to her messages, counting down the hours until I'd see her again. And I found myself pulling away from Sarah without even meaning to. It wasn't a conscious decision at first. I just stopped trying as hard. When Sarah wanted to talk, my responses were shorter. When she suggested activities for our couple nights, I agreed but without enthusiasm. I was going through the motions and we both knew it. Sarah noticed. Of course she noticed. You seem distant, she said one night during our protected couple time. We were supposed to be watching a movie, but she'd paused it 20 minutes in. I'm right here, I said. Physically, yeah. But where's your head? I didn't answer. Is it this Emily girl? Her voice was carefully controlled, but I could hear the tension underneath. I've been seeing her, yeah, I told you that. I know what you told me. I'm asking if you're developing feelings for her. I looked at Sarah, really looked at her, and saw something I hadn't seen in months. Fear. She was afraid. I don't know, I said, which was a lie. I knew exactly what I was feeling. Over the next few weeks, Sarah's behavior changed dramatically. She started wanting more couple time, planning elaborate dates, suggesting we cook together like we used to. She'd touch me more, kiss me goodbye in the mornings, initiate conversations about our future. She asked questions about Emily constantly. What did we do on our dates? How often was I seeing her? What was she like? You talk about her the way you used to talk about us, Sarah said one evening, and there was something broken in her voice. I didn't know what to say to that because she was right. Sarah tried harder. She suggested we take a weekend trip just us to reconnect. She made my favorite dinner without being asked. She laughed at my jokes, really laughed, the way she used to, but it all felt calculated now, strategic. She was trying to win back territory she'd assumed would always be hers. When I didn't immediately respond to this renewed attention the way she wanted, she got frustrated. I feel like I'm fighting for you, she said, and you're just not fighting back. I'm following what we agreed to, I replied. I'm not talking about a list on a document, she said, voice tight. I'm talking about us, about our actual relationship. It's not separate from us, I said. You wanted to open this up, and we wrote those boundaries because we needed them. She went quiet for a long time, and I could see her working up to something. Finally, she said, I think we should close things back up. Go back to just us. I felt something click into place in my chest, a clarity I hadn't felt in months. No, I said simply. Her face went pale. What do you mean, no? I mean, I don't want to close the relationship, not right now. So you're choosing her over me? Her voice was rising, panic creeping in. I'm choosing not to make a decision based on your jealousy after you spent months telling me I was insecure for feeling the exact same way. That's different. I wasn't falling for anyone else. How is it different, Sarah? Really, how? You broke the rules. You dismissed my feelings. You got to explore whatever you wanted while I sat at home wondering if you'd even come back. And now that I've found something that makes me happy, something that feels good and healthy and real, you want me to give it up? I made mistakes, she said, and now she was crying. I know I did, but we can fix this. We can go back to how things were. I don't want to go back to how things were. That's the whole point. And as I said it, I realized it was true. Not just about the open relationship, but about all of it. The drift we'd been in for months, the small resentments, the feeling of going through motions. Emily hadn't caused this. She'd just shown me what I'd been missing. I think we should break up, I said quietly. Sarah's face crumpled. No, no, please. We can fix this. I'll do better, I promise. I'll follow the rules, I'll make you the priority, It's not about the rules anymore. It's about the fact that you only cared about them when it benefited you. About the fact that you're only fighting for us now because you're losing. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. We talked for another hour, going in circles, but the shape of it was already clear. She begged, bargained, promised to change. She said she loved me, that she'd made mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes. I believed she loved me, in her way. I just didn't think her love was the kind that made space for anyone else's needs. The actual breakup took 2 weeks to execute. We had to figure out the apartment, the stuff, all the practical details of untangling 3 years of life together. Sarah cried a lot. She'd find me in the kitchen or the living room and just start sobbing, asking if I was sure, if we could try counseling, if I could give her one more chance. I'm so sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I know, I'd say, and I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore, just sad for both of us. The day she moved out, she stood in the doorway with the last of her boxes, mascara smudged, eyes red like she hadn't slept. This is really happening, she said, like she was still waiting for me to take it back. Yeah, I said. My throat felt tight. It is. She nodded once, sharp and small. Take care of yourself, she said, and then she turned and walked out before either of us could make it worse. That night I called Emily. It's done, I said. Sarah moved out today. A beat of silence. How are you holding up? Lighter, I said, surprised by the honesty of it. And sad. But lighter? Do you want company? Yeah, I said. I do. She showed up with takeout and 2 beers. No big speech, no trying to fix me. She just sat next to me on the couch and let the quiet be quiet. After a while, she said, What do you want now? I looked at her and realized I didn't feel confused. I want something simple, I said. Something honest. I want you if you want me. Emily smiled, soft and sure. I do. 6 months later, life looks boring in the best way. A different apartment. A Saturday morning with nowhere urgent to be. Emily in an oversized sweater, feet in my lap, sketching while I make coffee the way she likes it. Hey, she says, tipping her phone toward me. A tiny cabin in the mountains. Next month? I grin. Yeah, let's do it. It isn't fireworks. It's steadiness. It's the feeling that I don't have to brace myself before I speak. I learned that commitment isn't a feeling. It's behavior. And when someone's behavior only changes when they're afraid of losing you, it isn't care. It's panic. With Emily, I don't have to beg for that basic respect. It's just there, every day. If you're enjoying the channel, the easiest way to support it is like and subscribe. It really helps.